Hey guys! Whew. I don't know how long it's been or how many years since I last filmed a YouTube video, and a lot has happened since then. I had to really make sure that I was in a good place to be able to talk about the stuff that I'm going to talk about in this video and make sure it doesn't trigger me. I feel really nervous to talk about all of this stuff because a lot of people didn't know this about me or expected it. I know that there is power to sharing your story and being vulnerable because you never know who may need to hear it, and if that could just be their sign to get the help that they need. I get really frustrated and sad, and even I find myself being embarrassed to talk about my drug addiction because there's a lot of shame and guilt that goes into it, and people like to stereotype it a lot, but there is just so much more that goes on to drug addiction, or any addiction of that matter. It became a way to cope with the unbearable and to cope with everything going on in your mind, because sometimes life can just feel so unmanageable and all you know is to numb it. My whole life I have been addicted to something, whether that was my eating disorder when I was in my teenage years. I was so addicted to that control and controlling the way that I felt, and that's the same thing that drugs did for me, was being able to control. It gave me an escape from my own mind that was constantly trying to tear me down, and it was a tool for me at some point. It wasn't a helpful tool, but it was a tool for me to survive. So I don't even know where to start with my whole journey. I got into drugs at age 20. I always just kind of thought I was just like a late bloomer. It was just alcohol and cocaine at first, and I was doing it with my boyfriend at the time, Garrett, and in no way I'm talking ill about him. I love him to death and I wish he was still here, and it's just a tragedy what happened. I always just thought I was a late bloomer because I had my eating disorder my whole life, and I was always so rigid and strict and just never willing to let go of that control. And if at first the drugs were fun, it was always a good time, but then it quickly didn't feel fun anymore. It felt like it was an escape, and I so desperately wanted that escape from my own mind. And then Oxy got introduced, and I thought I found the solution to my whole entire life because it just fit that puzzle that I felt like my heart needed, because I always felt this emptiness inside of me, like this void, and Oxy provided me that warm blanket feeling that I never got. And I hold so much guilt to this day that I felt like I was a part of everything, and I just didn't have the awareness like I do now how fucking serious drugs are and how scary they are. Like, if we continued down that route, something bad was going to happen, and I just knew it in my heart. And we just kept getting deeper and deeper into it, and being up for 5 days straight, not eating, it was just normal to us, and that's scary. And it's so crazy how drugs can really change the way you rationally think. Never in a million years would I have thought to consider taking fentanyl, and same with Garrett. And yet, that one night that we did, he passed away. And I was there, waking up to him. You would think that would be enough to scare me not to ever do drugs again. But drugs are tricky like that. They just try to get back into your life. And 3 months later, I was back doing Oxy. And that's really when my addiction took off with that. I became so dependent on it, I couldn't even spend an hour without it. It helped cover up all of the guilt and all of the shame and all of the trauma that happened. It helped me escape my own brain because I hated myself. I hated myself so much. I hated living, and the only way that I felt like I could get through anything was with Oxy. And I would do it by myself. I would do cocaine, drink, and do Oxy by myself in my room. And those are such lonely times. I was so miserable. It's all I've known to get through. My addiction took me to so many dark places. Such dark places I can't even believe I survived them. And I lost myself in it. And I hid it well. I was still going to the gym, but I just knew people knew something was up. And I just became someone I couldn't even recognize in the mirror. Like, I look back on pictures of myself during those times, and I get scared. I get like chills because I just see no light in my eyes. I see, like, Serena was gone. I was checked out. I was a terrible person. I was lying to everyone. I was not a good partner with my current boyfriend. I pushed people away because my only friend was Oxy. And when I wanted to stop, I couldn't because my body became physically dependent on it. And I would have the craziest withdrawals that it would push me to the limits of going back to fentanyl again. And I did. And that is something that is so fucking scary because that could have been my life. That could have been the end of it. And I would have hated if my sister walked in on me dead. Because I just look at how many people die from this shit. And it breaks my heart. I really tested my limits. I just felt so far gone and I wanted help, but I just didn't know how to reach out. I didn't know. I was so ashamed. I was scared. I felt like I was taking it so unwillingly. I felt a slave to it and I just wanted it to stop. I wanted it all to go away. I wanted to quit so many times because I felt so miserable using. I didn't even do it to get high anymore. I was just doing it to survive and to not go through withdrawals. And the fentanyl is what really got me scared of myself. Didn't know who the fuck I was to be able to take this drug, do it at the risk of my own life. But I didn't care. Like, I just didn't care. I just wanted everything to stop. And that's why it took Samira finding out that I was taking fentanyl. And I'm so glad that she found out. Like, a part of me was so happy she found out because I didn't know how to stop on my own. If she didn't, I would be dead right now. It's hard to imagine that. So after I got caught, I had to go down to my mom's house and they took me to the doctors, and that's where I found out that my liver was failing and my whole body, it was not in good shape. I was sent to a 7-day detox and I had 2 seizures there that were terrifying. I never had seizures in my life. And I was just going through all these withdrawals and it was hell. And then after that, I got sent to the Riley house. It's a rehab in Denver, rehab up in Denver, called the Riley house. It was on a farm with some horses. It worked on a well-rounded therapy approach. I worked a lot on my eating disorder and my body dysmorphia, my trauma, my PTSD and grief. Sorry guys, my camera cut off. I spent those 2 months in rehab, and honestly that was the best decision I made because I feel like it really uncovered a lot of trauma from Garrett's death and from my childhood and all of these things that I just kept burying inside of me. And it finally unfolded, or it finally got light that I needed to shed on it. I don't have to hide from it anymore. I don't have to keep numbing it. I could feel it and I will be okay. It really developed a lot of skills that I haven't had before and a lot of coping mechanisms that are healthier to actually manage what's going on in this brain of mine. I was released November of last year. Sadly, I did relapse after, but not on Oxy. I feel like if I ever do Oxy again, I don't think I could stop. And that is something I'm grateful for, to have that awareness and to have that ick about, because it ruined my fucking life and I cannot let that come back. That relapse really taught me a lot about, and I felt so shameful about it and guilty. But I just know that if I didn't go through that, I wouldn't have this awareness that I have now about how desperately I do not want to do this, how desperately I do not want to feel so miserable, and to not run from my pain or my sadness, but to face it And a relapse doesn't mean that you're losing this battle. It just means that you had a small hiccup and to get right back up. Some people can just stay down because of that guilt. But today, presently, I am feeling really good about my recovery and life again. I feel that spark again, and I wake up and I'm excited, and I'm not dreading the day to come. I'm not miserable because I'm withdrawing. I can actually live my life, and I never thought that was possible. I never thought I could go a day without doing Oxy. I just want to give that Serena that was hurting and using and just so miserable, and just give her a hug and tell her that everything's going to be okay and that it's okay to get help, because that's the best decision I've ever made in my life. And I'm so excited about just things to come now, and there's possibility back in my life again, and that's all thanks to being healthy again. I have a competition coming up March 8th, which I'm really excited about. I found my love for powerlifting again and getting strong. I've been getting structure back in my life. I go to therapy, I do my IOP. I am on the right track, and that feels so good to say. It feels so good not to have my family worry about me. I couldn't do it without my support system. I have an amazing boyfriend that helped me through so much. I'm so thankful for my family for not giving up on me. All these emotions. See, that's what you gotta look forward to when you get clean. And I have you guys. Thank you guys so much for letting me share my story. I am super nervous to post this because I'm scared of judgment, but no one could judge me as much as I judge myself anyway. I'm just kidding. But putting myself out there is worth it if I could at least just help one person. And that's all I really want to do. I hope you guys follow along with my journey. And I hope that you guys got something out of this video. I don't know, whether it be to ask for help or either for someone that you know is struggling. Thank you guys for listening, and I love you guys so much.